What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Therapy. Today, we're at Veterans Compost. You see that? Big piles of compost to the right, to the left. They're going to explain to us how they do what they do here and why they do it, all in a nutshell today. Stay tuned. And here we go.
The way the process works for us is we only have two feedstocks, food scraps and wood chips. So we don't do any yard waste, we don't do any manure, we don't do any biosolids at this facility. And our rule is if we wouldn't eat there, then we don't pick up the food scraps. So that's kind of our way of trying to control what we put into the compost. So we're not certified organic, ironically, because of Mom's Organic Market. So because we take in compostable cups and straws, that makes us not allowed to sell our product to organic farms. We could put all kinds of other crazy junk in there and be certified organic, but the powers that be in the great world of organics say that compostable straws make you not organic. So if you remember the great straw wave of 2018 that we all live in, the post-plastic straw era, it's cool. Like, we think it's more important to keep plastic out of the landfill in the ocean than to be certified organic, but that's just kind of one of the things. Now, if you look online, there's a video of me drinking the compost, so I stand behind the product and I'm really proud of it. And that's why we don't do yard debris or manure or biosolids, things that typically have a lot of chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, and compounds like that. So what we do is these wood chips back here, they come in throughout the day from tree companies that are dropping off wood chips from local tree work and land clearing. And then that's our carbon. So if you're familiar with composting, at your browns and your greens, our browns or our carbon source is wood chips. You know, we lay down a base of wood chips here and then dump the food waste on top of it. The goal is, it's hard to tell today because of the rain, but the goal is to soak up the moisture. So what we want to do is, for all this food waste that sometimes can be high moisture, we want to soak up all of that moisture because we want to use it for our compost process. So all the food scraps get dumped on that bed of wood chips. When it comes to picking out trash, there are no robots, there is no high-tech method. It's $9 gloves and $12 boots and guys getting in there and getting the work done. So we pick out all the trash and non-compostable material, put more wood chip on top, and then mix all that together into one kind of homogeneous mix. And then it's gonna go onto our compost pile. So we talked about the wood chips being good for absorbing moisture, but the other thing the wood chips are good for is that as a carbon source is, wood chips are pretty bulky. So if you think about wood chips, there's a lot of airspace between all the particles. So our method, we need airflow. And so wood chips are awesome for creating a pile that has a lot of porosity and has a lot of opportunities for airflow. So if you go to like the Hartford County landfill, or you go to where they make leaf grow, the yard waste debris out in Montgomery County, they have huge compost turners that are hundreds and hundreds of horsepower, big old diesel monster trucks. And what they do is they straddle the pile and flail it and turn it. Those machines are very, very expensive. They can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're really expensive to operate, produce a lot of diesel fumes and all that stuff. So, and in that method, when you turn a compost pile, you help to mix up the material, and every time you turn it, the pile gets some oxygen. But if you ever looked at a chart of airflow in compost piles, the airflow quickly drops off, that within an hour of turning a compost pile, it's back to almost anaerobic conditions. We are taking in some crabs, but the crabs are out of Louisiana. The Maryland crab season hasn't started yet. So we'll just stay out of his way while he's mixing. So you'll see Monte here just be mixing stuff together, kind of getting the right mixture. It's funny, there's a lot of science behind it in terms of moisture content, carbon to nitrogen ratio. But at the end of the day, after you do it long enough, it all kind of becomes rule of thumb to where he can get it pretty well mixed just by eyeballing it with the bucket loader. And it comes out pretty darn close to what you scientifically measure and try to get done. So, not all food waste is created equal. So someone asks, do we compost meat? We do any kind of food. So not just fruits and vegetables, but meat, dairy, bones, shells. We take anything that says certified compostable, so cutlery, cups, plates, all that stuff. And not all of it's the same. So if you think about a compostable cup, it's dry, it's made out of cornstarch, it's a carbonous material, versus a tomato that's almost all water and all moisture. And so that's where the guys, as they mix and aggregate things, they want to try to get to the goal, which is 50 to 60% moisture content. So you actually want to be able to kind of pick up some material and squeeze out a little bit of water. If your pile's too dry, things won't break down. and if it's too soggy, you can get anaerobic conditions. So we're shooting for 50 to 60% moisture. So by mixing everything together, we'll get our moisture content right, get our carbon and nitrogen ratio right, and then it gets added to the pile. So the pile behind us, the end that we're at, this is our oldest stuff right now. We're actually in the process of building the pile all the way back to the tree line. So later today, once the guys have everything mixed, they'll take everything down the aisle and add it to the pile. And you can see along the pile we have pipes. These pipes are perforated pipes that run throughout the pile, and they're hooked up to this blue barrel which holds a blower and a timer. And so what we're doing is a big 9th grade science project. We're supplying air to the pile. So it's called the Aerated Static Pile method. The pile is static. Once we build it, it's set it and forget it, like the Ronco rotisserie. We're not gonna touch it again until we're ready to screen it. So we're gonna supply the air into the pile to keep all the microbes happy. So we gotta get the mixture right, make sure the pile's fluffy, make sure it's all ready to go, and then turn on the blowers. The white stakes, you can see kind of 2 in the distance there. That's where we're active right now in the pile, and they actually hold temperature probes. So you can, like, we used to, for years and years and years, use a 36-inch probe thermometer and a clipboard and walk along the pile and take measurements. But that takes a lot of time and a lot of labor, and you got to remember to do it every day. But those little Bluetooth-enabled data loggers gather the temperature every hour, so we can come along with our phone and check a week's worth of data, and we can see how the piles are doing around the clock. And what we can do is we can adjust our timers on our blowers if the pile's too hot or too cold. So our goal is legally to make compost with this method, you have to be at 55 degrees Celsius, 131 degrees Fahrenheit for 72 hours. And then it's like street legal. But that's like making wine for 3 days. Like, it's wine, but like, I'm not gonna drink it. I'm gonna put that in the cellar and let it sit for a while. So what we do is we try to get to around 140 degrees, no more than like 165. And we try to stay there for about a week or 2 at least. Because what we want to do is, because we take meat and we take other feedstocks, we don't want any pathogens. So just like you cook the turkey for Christmas or Thanksgiving, and you got to get it up hot enough to kill anything in your turkey, we're doing the same thing here. We want to come up to 140, 165 at the most, and make sure we do full pathogen reduction. And then we want to start to bring the pile down. Above 165, nothing really lives, so there's really no point in being that hot in the compost pile. Because what we're trying to do is, when we sell compost, compost isn't a fertilizer, it's called a soil amendment, and what we're trying to do is sell you a living thing that's gonna make your soil better. So when we look at the temperature range of our pile, we wanna get hot, kill all the pathogens, all the bad guys, and then we wanna start cooling down in different bands. And as we go through each temperature range, different microbes are active. And so if we do that, we end up with a really diverse, kind of well-rounded compost.
How do you cool it down?
It'll go on its own for the most part. What happens is all the bacteria love sugar, as do kids and everybody else in the free world. So what happens is all the fruits and vegetables and things in the pile that are high in sugar, the bacteria are gonna get on that right off the bat and spike our temperature. So the pile we're building today, this material, it'll be at 140 in 48 hours. We'll get going. And then as that bacteria plays out and that sugar is depleted, then things will start to cool down as other microbes take over. If we want to manipulate the pile and cool it off, what we can do is turn the blowers on full blast, because we're blowing positive air, and we could just sit here and just blow air all day and evacuate the heat. The downside is, if you blow out all your moisture, it's really hard to rehydrate the pile because you can't get the water everywhere it needs to go. So you got to have this kind of balance of getting the temperature where you want it and supplying enough air to keep the microbes happy, but not too much air that things are going haywire.
So can I ask you what?
Yeah.
When he mixes all this together, he's mixing the wood chips and all that stuff together to get that carbon-nitrogen ratio just right.
Yep.
And you haul it up there, and you make a big pile so that you're not going to be.
It's pretty muddy, but you can walk back there if you want later. Yeah.
But you're not going to be adding things over several weeks. You just make that pile, and it's ready to go in a few hours.
Correct. So I mean, every day we add a little bit more to the end of the pile, a little bit more to the end of the pile, a little bit more to the end of the pile. So it's called, technically it's an EASP, an extended aerated static pile, because the pile just keeps extending. Now what's going on is we're almost to the back of what's left. So come by Friday, we're kind of waiting because it's nice to have a nice looking end of the pile, but this will start disappearing. and going through the screener. And we'll start freeing up this floor space so that we can start building the pile here again. So we talk about 30 days here, getting our temperatures right, and then as things start to cool off and we need the space back, it's time to screen. So behind us here, this green machine. I don't know, it's 5-6 years ago. The day I bought that machine, that cost more than everything on the farm when I bought it. So McCloskey, a 407 means it's a 4-foot high drum and it's 7 feet long. The smallest machine they make now is a 512. Like, they don't even make this one anymore. It was too small. They don't want anything to do with it. So there I am, like, quivering as I sign the paperwork, and they're like, couldn't be bothered. It's like, you know, they're selling Ferraris and I'm there buying the used Kia off the lot. So that's what we do, is all the material goes through there. It's set to a 1/2-inch screen. So all the stuff that's a 1/2 inch or smaller is gonna come out that tall belt out the end. It'll pile up, and then that's what we'll eventually sell to folks. All the chunkier pieces will come out the end closest to us, that big rubber drum. So any wood chips that haven't broken down, the occasional bottle or can or shell or bone. You know, we're into the time of year now where things from the fall season are starting to show up going through the screener. So we play the CSI game of, is that a chicken leg bone, or what kind of bone is that? So you start to get some funky bones coming out this time of year. You got to make some decisions. We do other mixes throughout the year for folks that request it. We do potting mix and like raised garden mix that we use out. We actually mix in a larger screener in larger batches. But I figure we could just stand in here where it's not rainy, because everybody was looking a little on the wet side out there. So we do some worm composting, which if anybody wants to check that out later, there's not much to look at this time of year because it's cold. So worms are like fish. So they all go to the bottom of the pond and hang out in the winter. Kind of the same for our worms. So there's a lot of wooden crates out here in the hoop house frame, similar boxes to this. And what we do is the worms get a diet of partially composted material and Wawa coffee. Worms love coffee and coffee filters. And what happens is we start with about a foot of material in the bins, and then we slowly add material until it gets close to the top, and then screen the material. So there's actually a worm harvester right outside this door here as you walk out. Turns out there's such a thing as a worm harvester. So, you know, that's what sifts the nice fine worm castings from the worms themselves. The worms go back in the bin and start all over. So, you know, our regular compost is awesome. I think it does a good job, but the advantage on worm compost is, you know, in case you didn't know, worms don't have teeth. So when worms eat and digest things, they need to use, they have a gizzard, and they use enzymes and bacteria. And so as they break things down in their gizzard, they eventually poop it out. And the worm poop, the worm castings, is what people seek because it has a lot of microbial life in it.
All right, guys, so Justin has given me free reign to kind of like do some exploring, but that was pretty cool, right? So his service is actually a $29.99 monthly service that he can charge, that homeowners can even take advantage of, which I think is pretty cool as well. So we're just gonna do a little exploring, you know, walk around a little bit, see what's going on, because I couldn't really get too close earlier. So yeah, we'll walk around and do that. So this is the wood chip pile that he was talking about earlier, where he takes this is the carbon that goes into this pile, these piles over here. And as you can see, they're starting to stack them up and getting those mixtures right, not too wet, not too dry. I think it's pretty cool how this environment needs to be an aerobic environment, just like my worm factory. Once it's too wet, too much moisture, then it's an anaerobic. So anaerobic just means the absence of oxygen, which in turn turns into anaerobic. So there needs to be oxygen to promote all of this heat and this whole process that's happening here. So I just wanted to walk back to the back and look at that. We're putting the Cujos to work as soon as we got them. I figured these were the perfect shoes to wear up here, and I'm gonna let you guys know they are holding up just fine. My socks are nice and dry. So I guess this is the natural break that they've made here, so they can loop in and out. But yeah, this is where they add to the piles and let it cook up. You can see the pipes. There's a pipe right here coming out. I imagine when they close the loop on the pipe, that's when they'll pump that nice, rich oxygen through there. that this thing needs. Look at that. So they got the lettuce in here, and what's super cool about his self-sustaining ecosystem is that's the same thing I'm creating at home. So I got my worms, right, which I feed them produce that spoils, right? They create this black gold of worm poop, and then I take that worm poop and I put it in my garden beds, and whatever I can't eat or give away, I give it to the worms. It's beautiful, beautiful. I'm telling you guys, get into it. Go and get it, get after it now. Look at that. Oh, look at purple dead nettle. So if you don't know what purple dead nettle looks like in its own natural form, this is what it looks like. My wife, she thinks these things are beautiful, right? Purple dead nettle, guys. Boom. So we got some spotted spurge and dead nettle right there in that flower bed. How cool is that?
Mixing
Vermiculite, pea moss,
compost together.
to make this.
Yeah.
Right, and this is the compost that's right over here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like working here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty cool job.
Yeah, it really is. I've been trying to work there. My dad been working there for 2-3 years, I believe. I've been trying to work here for like past 2 years.
Okay. Cool.
And I finally got in. This is going on my 3rd week.
Okay. So this is your first season.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So you quick learner. He showed you one time and you was in there. So this is the mixer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be back, man. You'll see me around here this season. All right, brother. Joe, we're out here making friends. Someone was asking me about their idea of using a half of a barrel. They were gonna cut it in half. If he is doing these outside, and I tell you, it gets warm out here, super warm out here in Maryland, and if he's being successful with these, I think that on the side of the house that you were planning on doing, that'll work with a barrel. What's this? We got some, what is that? Is that onion? I think that's no, these are tulips. These are tulip bulbs. Look at that. Those are tulip bulbs, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I was right, look at that. These are tulips, bulbs for tulips. That's cool. Something happened to them. I don't know why they pulled them up. Dude, I can stay out here all day.
Welcome, Veteran Compost. Been working here for about 5 years now going on. Man.
Okay.
I just love what I do.
Right.
I got it for the compost love of it. You know what I mean? All this recycled waste not going to the landfills and
Right.
everything.
It's crazy, right?
Do something, doing that. I'm doing something good for the earth.
Right.
And everything, doing my part.
Right.
And everything like that. So I take pride in that. Coming in every day, as you can see, we out here in the rain, sleet, snow.
You still
and
working.
like that. We still get it done and
Right.
everything like that. But it's a joy, like working in the garden too as well. So it turns out you eat a lot healthier.
Look at that. You guys see, he got the bananas.
On my break and everything like that.
Right.
So you see
And then when you do, you take this and throw it in the pile?
Right. You compost it again.
Right.
These are things that supermarkets were throwing out. So these are things that's coming in our bins that are like, oh, man, I can eat this.
Right, this is still good. Right.
So I get to eat, for free, eat healthy, and
Right.
everything, and then I get to compost it
Right.
at the same time.
That's perfect, man.
That. So it works all in hand.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And
Awesome.
everything. But man, like I said, it's just a joy being here and everything, and seeing more people get involved of exactly what's going on with composting and everything is also cool, and what we need to do as a community.
Right.
And everything
Yeah.
like that. Just the network and understand what we can do to better our soil and everything like that.
Right.
With all this global warming.
Right.
Then we gotta kind of focus on what's really
And
important.
doing better.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Doing better.
Just doing
Yep,
better.
yep.
All right, man. Well,
Yeah,
appreciate
definitely.
it.
Yep.
Thanks for giving us the time to wrap it up.
Anytime.
That's pretty much it. That wraps up this episode of Turf Therapy, where we're healing lawns and souls. And I'll see you next time for your weekly dose of therapy with Rob.